Do you ever feel overwhelmed? Not by anything in particular, but just life. The journey of life can be daunting between working to pay the bills, growing your relationships to keep your family afloat. And then, where does that leave time for yourself and your personal health? Welcome to the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast, where we are all about juggling and managing all of your responsibilities to be by your side in growing through it all. This brand is here to help you achieve your goals. Whether they are personal and emotional goals you set for yourself, business goals you want to hit in your career, or physical and nutritional goals you want to accomplish to be a healthier version of yourself. Whatever your goals are, stay tuned for tips and tricks to make accomplishing them easier for you. Each episode will help you significantly improve in one aspect of your life or another.
Hey guys, it's Caitlin with the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast, where we are all about personal growth and development. And I'm so happy to have my special guest, Misty, join me this morning. I would love it if she would just go ahead and give an introduction as far as who she is so our viewers can get to know her.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's just great to share space with you this morning and love on your community a little bit. So my name is Misty Oldham. I have Bloom Health and Wellness. I've been a nurse for 18 years, and we're going to kind of dive into how I switched from the healthcare field and nursing over to the health and wellness space to just really love on moms that are busy trying to do all the things and forgetting to take care of themselves. And so I have the opportunity to link arms with them and help them figure out what that can look like.
How amazing. So I love how the beginning part of your life really speaks to that working mom who's in healthcare. And then because you had a personal transition into doing this on your own, you're speaking and you're helping other moms making that same transition. So you speak to two different markets of moms. I can't wait to hear all about it. So if you want, let's take it from the beginning of your career journey, and then you can transition into what made you change.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So my story is, looking back, we don't always see the blessings in the moment, right? And so actually right after I graduated from nursing school, was in a car accident and broke my pelvis. So wow. I had plans, God had different plans, right? And so Absolutely. He put me in exactly the right spot. Started my nursing career in a totally different path than I was thinking that I would, and very quickly realized that our healthcare system is set up for sick people, right? And, there's a pill for every ill. And I thought, this is not the way life is supposed to be. So the catalyst for me to actually change and try and do something different on more of the preventative side was actually my dad, who is a type 2 diabetic, doesn't really take care of himself, and ended up having 9 open heart surgeries. And I thought, this is not my story. I have an opportunity to do something different, and then realized these are the practical things that women in our community really need to ward off chronic preventable diseases, to really prioritize their health. And so kind of just looked around, right? The health and wellness space was just beginning. I didn't know what a certification looked like. What is that whole process? And so kind of like we do with our spiritual walks, like we just walk with our hands open, right? Taking those shuffling steps of like, Lord, lead me where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
And so he put me exactly where he wanted me to be. Then kind of fast forwarding from there, we all know what happened a couple of years ago, right? COVID. And so working in a corporate space and realizing that I needed to be home with my babies. I'm a mom of 3. And I needed to be there to support my husband, to support my kids. And I thought, I can do this on my own. But the dirty secret is they don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur in nursing school. So just still same thing, right? Hands open, just going, okay, Lord, lead me to the right mentors and leaders to help kind of shepherd me through that process. And so here I am 3 years, almost 4 years into business. And I'm so thankful that I took that leap of faith.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was a really good summary of where you were, where you started, some trials and tribulations along the way, but all of them were learning lessons and they catapulted you forward into where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's flash back a little bit to whenever you got into your injury. You had a pelvic injury. That's not something small. That is massive. So personally, with your mental health, in that situation, how did you even overcome that? Because I could see a lot of people completely giving up at that point, because that's a huge setback. So what was your mental space like?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much more to that story of just the way that God was working in my marriage, in our finances, so many different things, because I didn't work for over a year.
Yeah.
Um, and just it was fully reliance on, full reliance on him, of just saying, I surrender. Like, I don't get it. I was not walking with the Lord in that time. I grew up in a Christian home, but college gives you a perfect opportunity to either like dive in deep, right? Or to go like, oh, this worldly stuff looks like a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I was on that track. And so I say, I'm from the show me state. I'm from Missouri. And so I say, like, I'm pretty hard headed, right? And so I needed that big life event for me to be able to pull back and say what is really important, and just, again, full surrender to him, to just say, what are you going to do with this? How can I make this into, beauty from ashes?
Thank you for showcasing all of that. Sometimes God has to do that to us and humble us tremendously for us to go back home to him. So I love your transparency, because if we've been to college before, or even if we've graduated high school, we can all relate to choosing that path where we've been taught up this way and doing what's right, or the other path where it's kind of tempting to explore other options. And then God will humble us tremendously. That was kind of the season of my life where I was born and raised Catholic, but in college, I transitioned to non-denominational when I really was working on my relationship with God versus my religion. But it still wasn't rock solid. Went to Vegas. My husband was my boyfriend at the time, or fiance. And what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. And we got pregnant for our son. And that was a season where God really humbled me to show me what grace actually looks like. Because I used to think, man, how could that person say they have a relationship with God and then do this? And it's like, because we're human, we all fall short of his glory. So that was my season of humility, just like you getting that injury was your season of humility. And it really makes you walk in true surrenderance to him, to say, Lord, you show me, because I don't know anything.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He needs to, remove the mud from our eyes so that we can truly see what our purpose is and where he wants us to take that light and that mantle for others.
Exactly. So a few years go by and your father starts having these illnesses with diabetes. And that's whenever you started to see how the healthcare system was truly set up. So what in particular did that show you, especially in your career? You were becoming a nurse, or you were a nurse. So going through that with your personal life and then having a career in it, what did that display to you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So being the science nerd that I am, know a lot about epigenetics, right? And so we're a product of our genes, but we're also very much a product of our environment. I can't change my genes. Those are the beautiful gifts that I have from my family, but I have day-to-day choices. And so working in kind of the neuroendocrine space within my career before I transitioned over into health and wellness, I kept seeing the same patterns, right? People don't have a system figured out for like how to actually meal plan, calendaring in, being able to get their workout in and honor their body with movement and honor their body with, fuels that God has created that didn't come from a cardboard box, right? And so I found this great opportunity of how can I teach people how to actually care for their bodies, their minds, mentally, spiritually, physically, because my dad wasn't doing it either. It was the fast food lifestyle. That's what I grew up with. And those are hard habits to break, but they're doable.
They are. I'm so happy that you shared where you're from too, being that you're in Missouri and I live in the South, but culturally we share some of the same similarities as far as our eating habits. That's why I wrote the book, I Killed My Father's Killer, how what we're eating can be killing us too. Because for a lot of us in the Western society, we rely on fast food because it fits our schedule. We don't know how to meal prep because we're not taught these things at home. So for me as a Southern girl, I was raised on rice and gravy, some meat in there. Like veggies were not a thing.
So they're fried.
Exactly. Everything fried. Yeah, we had veggies. They were fried green beans, all the good stuff, or taste good, but not good for us. Right. So that's why I went on my vegan journey and then transformed that into a book, similarly to how you saw what your dad went through. And then you use that to catapult you forward to say, you know what? I don't need this for my life. And I know there's a lot of other women who are stuck in this cycle too. So let's work on changing that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is like there are influences everywhere, right?
Mhm.
You can Pinterest your way through all of the meals that you want. But
Yep.
the reality is like, are you writing down what those ingredients are? Have you scaled it to, the number of servings for your family? There are influences on social media. Oh, if you just do this, like here's your quick fix. But the
Mhm.
reality is it's the discipline and figuring out like our motivation goes so far, right?
Yeah.
January comes along for, a New Year's resolution. And then now it's what, beginning of February. I'm curious, like how many people have fallen off the wagon, right? And
Mhm.
so it's figuring out, for me, the gift is like doing the investigation and figuring out what does that system need to look like that's going to be flexible, that's still going to work for families and change that generational curse of the fast food lifestyle, the Pop-Tart breakfast,
Yes.
the soda, or do you guys call it pop, Coke? What do you call it?
Coke, soda.
Coke.
I think you Northerners call it popper. I think so.
Yeah.
It's so good to hear you talking about a lot of this because I wrote a lot of that in my book. It makes me feel like, yes, I'm not crazy. Other people go through this too.
Yes. Well, let me validate you because yes, we are in the same boat.
Yes, I love it. Well, would you mind speaking now on the full on transition that you had in your COVID time?
Yes, absolutely. So I worked for a very large company here in Kansas City as their health and wellness coach. And I had been meeting with people face to face, full schedule every day. And then COVID hit and poof, everybody's gone. The relationship, or I guess I should say the nature of the practice within this large organization, we still had to have someone there with a license. So nurse practitioner, a physician needed to be there, an RN needed to be there. And so we were all still there every day, just segregated, right, in all of our different offices. But I began to realize I'm meeting with all these people online all the time. And my husband has worked from home for a long time, but not with 3 kids, trying to figure out school and life. And so at the time, I really did have just a fellow sister in Christ as a boss who was like, let's figure this out. This doesn't work for anybody. And so we had a little bit of, opportunity to work from home some days, but my heart, the Lord was just really burdening it of like, Misty, this is what you're called for. Like these children and, submitting as a wife as well, like this is where I needed to be. But I have plans for you. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I'm so type A, right? And I was like, I need to see the outline of everything. And he was like, nope, just like your rec, like walking in faith. So I put in my notice and just said, and it is really hard to walk away from a corporate job, right? And start something from scratch. But he has blessed that and honored that and magnified it many times over, personally, professionally, within our family, within my marriage, just from submitting.
That is such a beautiful testimony. And I love how you said he's honored it in your marriage, in your business, professionally, with your family. Like it's not just one way. And I just remember, it reminds me of that scripture. I don't know the words exactly, but tenfold. Like whenever we do give something to him, what he gives back in return, it's more than we can even think, imagine, or conceive. And that's a beautiful example that he's done for you. And in the moment, whenever he's asking for a yes and he wants our obedience, he does not lay out the full path and show us pieces of the puzzle like we would want. He just wants us to have that blind faith. And I don't know about you, Misty, but I used to think that it was kind of like a test from God. And once I passed once, it probably won't happen again. But boy, oh boy, was I wrong, because it's like every time he wants our obedience, he wants our yes. It's in a new season of our lives. It's in a different area, but it's definitely always on a new level.
Oh, exactly. And he's asking us to do that. He's calling us to do that. And we don't know what, the kingdom side of that and how we're planting seeds in other people's lives. I mean, I'm reaching people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet if I wouldn't have, submitted.
Wow. And you're reaching them and changing their lives on a health perspective. And then more importantly, in a kingdom perspective too, because he's using you as his light that's shining upon everybody that you interact with. And it's like that wonderful example of an apple. You open up an apple and you see how many seeds are in that apple, but you don't know how many apples are in that seed. So that's exactly every life that you touch goes out there into the world and touches more lives. So it's just a beautiful picture of what God is doing in your life and using you in so many ways.
It's been such a blessing.
Oh my goodness. I'm honored to just be a part of it and talk about it with you. And I'm so grateful that you were willing and open to sharing it all on here to continue to help people. So I just want to wrap up with, where are you at currently? How could our viewers or listeners reach out to you if they wanted to just build a relationship with you or even explore your services?
Yeah, absolutely. I hang out quite a bit on Instagram at Bloom Health and Wellness, which is BLUM. Bloom stands for Beautiful Life with Upward Momentum, because that's where we need to go, right? So Bloom Health and Wellness, that's probably the best way to connect with me, or my website, bloomhealthandwellness.com. You can get connected that way as well.
Awesome. And if you could summarize it in one sentence, what do you offer your client?
Life change, right? Just helping moms get healthy, really prioritize themselves without the guilt. The mom guilt is a big part of it. And just really optimize their schedule, again, without feeling guilty, so that they can show up powerfully for all the things that they really want to do.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if there's one last thing that you want to tell our mom viewers or listeners to encourage them, what would that be?
Yeah. So my favorite phrase I tell my kids all the time, I've lived by it since my car accident, is to always be brave. So whatever that next step is for you, take that step of faith to just be brave in the moment. If it's, a temptation within your diet, or trying something new, or just stopping to pray, whatever that is, like being brave in the moment, just always be brave.
That's so good. And it's so needed. Thank you, Misty. I'm reflecting just on those two words, be brave. As a mom, that can look different for each one of us, and it can look different in all seasons. I know whenever God put it on my heart to stop drinking alcohol, there were moments whenever I would reach for the bottle, and I had to be brave to not drink that drink, even if it was just a simple glass of wine. God told me no, and I may not see why, but I had to be obedient. And there's other times as a mom, being brave means showing up, because mentally it can be overwhelming. So being brave is just what we need to hear to get us through each moment of each day. That compounds into months and years and a wonderful life. So thank you, Misty, for all that you shared on here. If you would like to get to know Misty even more, we have her Instagram handle right here. So be sure to go like and follow her, even for the simplest things of encouragement, because you see how much of a light she already is. So let's continue to build the I Killed My Own Killer community and kill our daily killers by utilizing Misty and her encouragement. And let's go out there together and be brave. Take care. Thanks for watching.
Wow, how about that episode? I know you are motivated to kick your butt into gear and become a better version of yourself from this experience of the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast. The crazy title of this podcast comes from the original personal development book series. Each book will transform you even more than listening to this podcast. Each book takes a deeper dive into how you can better yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and even spiritually. Continue your journey of personal growth by being a part of the amazing personal growth book series that is written in a fun fiction way with in-depth journals concluding each chapter. What are you waiting for? Go order your book at www.kfoxworth.com and join the Facebook community in the private Facebook group named I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast. You don't want to miss out on the full trifecta experience, including the books, the podcast, and the mastermind community in Facebook groups. Keep your personal growth burning desire on fire and be part of it all. It all starts here. So thanks for listening to the podcast, and stick around for more great episodes to keep you growing in all areas of life. You are killing it.